Today we're going to talk about reviving a seemingly dead Strat or Tele pickup. On Strats and Teles, there's eyelets where the lead wire is soldered into the coil wire, and you can easily access that. With humbuckers or P90s, it's a little more involved. You have to do some disassembly. It's something you may not want to try yourself. Now, we're doing this video as a service to people with maybe a vintage pickup that's no longer working, or maybe someone that had a pickup in a drawer for a while that's not working, or just any pickup out there. But this is something that almost never happens with our pickups. We put them through a wide variety of temperature and physical testing, and you should go back and look at some of our videos. We do a whole series of shop talk videos, and we go over that in great detail, the testing we do. But dead on arrivals or pickups that fail for us is basically a non-issue. It almost never happens because we take the extra steps to make sure that if there is a pickup that's going to be problematic, we catch it. It happens on our watch. Yeah, so this one didn't make it through the temperature test that we do. This is also something you run into with even older pickups, vintage pickups, and it could just be gunk in the eyelets here, or it could be something that's shorted out in the coil. Sometimes we find that just refreshing the solder joints, that's where the issue is. There's some gunk in the solder joint. I like to use a multimeter with alligator clips. That way I can have it hooked up to the multimeter the whole time I'm doing this, and when I'm applying the new solder and trying to melt whatever is in the joint there, I'm not doing it too long. I only do it until I see a reading, and then I know that it's fixed. Put the solder on there, and then you don't need much when you're doing this. Just put a little bit on there like I did there, and then just apply it to the joint and see if that does it. Okay, well, it's probably not that one. If it is the one, let's try the other one. There you go, right away. Didn't take much. So there's probably a little bit of wax that got in there when we potted it. And when we initially tested it, tested fine, but then as we did temperature changes, somehow that issue of wax or lacquer or something being in there caused it to read 0. So now we're going to go put it through the temperature test again, and hopefully it'll work out. But you can do this with vintage pickups. Sometimes a vintage pickup will stop, and you do that, it'll bring it right back to life. But the other thing you can do, if that doesn't work, like on a vintage pickup, for example, we've had issues where there's a short and refreshing the eyelets doesn't work. You really don't like to rewind. The results just aren't typically what people want. It doesn't, you put new wire on there, it just doesn't match the vintage wire. It may sound good, but it sounds like a different pickup, and so it doesn't blend so well with the other ones. Sometimes we'll try to repot them. So before we say, hey, rewind that or it's no good, we'll actually try to repot that pickup, because it's possible that there's some exposed wire somewhere along the line, and just by going through a repot, because it makes, when you do that, the coil expands and wax gets in there, then when you pull it out and it cools off, then maybe wax fills that short, and you can give that pickup some new life. So that's the second thing we do. As a last resort, you do a rewind. But honestly, you're better off probably just trying to take those pickups and selling them on eBay. Someone will give you top dollar for them. Once you do a rewind on one pickup, it's just not going to mix good with the other ones or sound good. A lot of the guys we deal with these days just buy a new set of pickups from us. They tell us that our pickups actually have more dynamic range than the old vintage ones. And most guys won't even wait for their vintage pickups to fail. If they buy a new vintage guitar, they'll just yank the pickups and drop ours in there.